Hey, Justice, how are you doing today?
Good. How are you this morning?
Good, good. I see you've got Foxconn behind you. Looking into buying a new iPhone or something like that, maybe?
Uh, Driving off in one, maybe. You never
Oh,
know.
yeah, yeah. So today we're going to talk about our headline, which is that Foxconn, which is going to change their name to Foxtron for vehicles, has announced that later this month it is unveiling all of the details about the Foxtron Model B. What an interesting name choice.
Yeah,
The
one that's
Model
going to
B.
have to change.
Yeah, the Model B. I wonder who patented that first. Actually, Ford did back in 1930s. But yeah, we're going to talk about the Model B and how it is eventually going to be built in Lordstown, Ohio. But production is starting imminently, very soon in China. Very, very interesting stuff there. But we've got a little bit of other EV news to talk about today. Uh, where should we start, Justice? I know you were just mentioning something before we went live. It was last week was National Electric Vehicle Week or something like that, and you would
Yeah.
think I would have celebrated that, but every day is EV day for me.
Yeah. You celebrate it every time you get in your car and go somewhere. So that's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Chicago over the weekend had the Chicago Drives Electric EV test drive and educational event, and it was sold out all weekend long. Standing room only. So it was such a hit that Chicago has decided that it's going to move it to the Chicago Auto Show coming this February.
Oh wow,
So there
that is
was
awesome.
lots and lots of interest, and everyone wanted to know all about the EVs and get their hands on them. And so I think it's great. I think the more people who are interested and want to find out, is fantastic. It's not for everybody. It won't be for everybody, but I think everyone getting in there, getting their hands on and testing is a good thing.
Yeah, I think the news from the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022, putting those new EV tax credits into the news, that has really sparked a lot of interest in EVs. And I would like to think it's going to be a lot more interest from people who historically did not care so much or they were not as curious about EVs because I've noticed it myself. I've mentioned it many times, but I'll say it again for those who might be new. I live in an area where EV adoption is like the second lowest in the nation. It's West Virginia. But I've been getting more and more people just asking me about my car. Not once have I ever had anyone walk up to me and say, really negative things about EVs. They just ask questions. They ask like, "What's the range? How long does it take to charge?" Those are all good questions. And yesterday we went to a pumpkin patch and corn maze, and it was a lovely place. And the owner of the farm like walked up to my car with a weird face, and he was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! What is this? It's not making any noise." That's what he said. It's not making any noise. I was like, "Yeah, it's electric." He goes, "Well, I've only ever seen Teslas before. I've never seen one like this, and I have an Ionic 5." And he was very interested in that. So I think the interest is kind of snowballing with all of the EVs in the news for both good and bad reasons. But it's where we are, and oh, man, can't wait to see what 2023 brings.
Yeah, I think the more models we get out there and the more it's not just Tesla, the more interested people are. People have their opinions of Tesla, good, bad, or indifferent. And, some people really hate the way Teslas look. So the more other things get out there, the more I think enthusiasm builds and people want to see what else is out there. And it's funny because I live in the state with the most adoption by a lot. And I do hear negative EV comments all the time.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm sure it's around here too, but I feel like West Virginians are quite nice people, and I don't know. I don't know. That's another topic, but
Yeah, yeah. I
they're
won't
not
get
they're
into
not
nice people.
confrontational. They're not confrontational. That's what I meant to say. But
What's that like?
oh, it's lovely. Let's talk about Rivian though, because this made big news heading into the weekend. Um, yeah, we were debating should this show be mostly about Rivian? Should it be mostly about the Foxtron Model B? But let's talk about Rivian before we dive into the Model B news, because Justice, you're going to share with us why this is such a big deal. And I'm going to pull up a map after you kind of share with the audience what's going on. I'm going to pull up a map that shows where Rivian's service centers are and why I think this is the biggest problem relating to the Rivian recall. So fill us in, if you will. I'll share
Yeah,
my screen while you explain.
yeah. So the recall is over the fastener on the steering knuckle. So it turns out that they may not have been fastened tight enough, and they are coming loose, which means if they're loose while you're driving, you will lose control of the steering of the vehicle. So this is a pretty major recall. This isn't something that can be done over the air. You got to actually take it in, and it actually has to be fixed by Rivian. Turn the screw however many more times to make sure it's tight in there. So it covers all R1T, R1S, and EDV models, about 12,000 vehicles overall, which is pretty much everything they have delivered.
Yeah, and the EDV models, those are the ones they have delivered to Amazon.
Yeah. Which I'm going to assume Amazon will probably end up fixing themselves because I know they have mechanics.
Yeah, and they have to have some kind of agreement that they're not gonna,
Yeah.
void the warranty of Amazon, their largest customer that's keeping them alive literally as a company, uh, uses their own mechanics. I bet
Well,
there
it
could
was
be some kind of leeway there.
their number one backer too.
Yeah.
At startup, they gave them the most money. So it's almost an Amazon company.
And we can't forget that Ford then got really deep into the whole Rivian
Mm-hmm.
game, invested a bunch of money, and then actually backed out of the partnerships. And Ford decided to go their own way with their electric platform engineering and all that. So interesting. The the journey Rivian has been through over the past 3 or 4 years has been very interesting. But
Yeah.
my take on the Rivian recall and why this is a big deal, a bigger deal than it would be otherwise, is because there are not a lot of service centers to get this fixed at. So even if it was Tesla, right? Tesla does not have a dealer network like the major OEMs do, but Tesla still has, oh, I don't know how many service centers. Let's look it up real quick.
A
Uh,
lot.
yeah, Tesla has a lot of service centers in the United States. Rivian, they've got about 20. I'm gonna go ahead and share with you guys where all 13,000 Rivian vehicles will have to be brought to. These are your options, guys, in order to get this recall taken care of. So, straight from Rivian, here we have it. I'm just going to go through it quickly. One location in Arizona. So, this is for all Rivian owners in the United States. These are the places they have to go to. There are 5 locations in California, 1 in Colorado, 1 in Florida, 1 in Georgia, 2 in Illinois. That is where Rivian is based. At least that's where they build the vehicles. Kansas, Massachusetts, Minnesota, Nevada, New York. New York has 1 location out of the whole state. Ohio, Tennessee, Texas, another gigantic state. I know quite a few Rivian fans live in Texas, truck country. 1 location in Houston, which I don't know if you're familiar with where Houston is, but it's in the corner, southeastern corner of Texas. So if you live in Dallas, Fort Worth, Austin, the western half of the state, you're going to have to drive literally 5 or 6 hours to get to the Rivian Service Center in Texas. There's 1 in Utah, 1 in Virginia, and 1 in Washington State. That's not a lot. That's about 20 centers, and I might be kind of generous with that. It's between 15 and 20 service centers for the whole United States. That's a problem when you're dealing with this kind of issue because, for example, if I was fortunate to have a Rivian here in West Virginia, I would have to drive to Richmond, Virginia, which is 5.5 hours to get my bolt tightened on my Rivian, and that would not make me a very happy owner.
No, no. And by contrast, I slacked you the list, but
Okay.
California has 42 Tesla service centers
Oh,
in
wow. California.
California.
Yes.
So, but this is something that we talk about all the time about the service centers and the infrastructure being there. This is part of it, and yeah, it's. But when we talk about getting rid of the OEM, the dealership model, this is what comes up all the time. Okay, where are you going to get your vehicle serviced?
Mhm.
You know, even Tesla, okay, they have a lot, but it's nowhere near what the OEMs are now and their garages. You can't just pull in, there's not 5 dealerships in your area you can just go into for your vehicle to be serviced. So this is something that needs to be addressed. I know in my area there are 3, but they also come out to you. So I don't know if that's the future of this, that it's a lot more mobile techs coming out to your home like Tesla in California. It'd be pretty easy to send a technician out to tighten the bolts. You can just hop down houses because the adoption rate is so high here that it makes sense to send a truck out.
Yes. And thank you for bringing this up in the chat. Why don't they have remote service options like Tesla? I just looked it up. Hmm. What is had something making noise there. Turns out Rivian does do remote service options. However, it's going to be not quite as quick of a fix because they don't have all of these home bases to work out of like Tesla does. So I'll pull that up in a second. So we're not trying to trash Rivian for anything unwarranted. I will show you guys what Rivian says they can do with their remote service options. But here is a map real quick I wanted to show, showing all of Rivian's service centers that are planned to be open by the end of next year. So this happened at an inopportune time. It's right before Rivian was able to grow its service center network. For example, we just said that in Texas right now there's only one service center in Houston, Texas for the whole region right there. But by the end of 2023, it looks like they're going to have about 10 open, including throughout the other major cities in the state. So just a really poor time for having this whole big recall going on. But yeah, it looks like Rivian does have some remote service options, which is great. Yeah,
I know
that's good.
we've talked about this before, but I'm just going to throw it out there again. The first EV automaker that partners up and trains the Costco technicians is going to win this whole thing. Because if
Yeah,
you could just go to your local Costco and have them fix it,
that's a good point.
they're already
Wow.
out there.
Uh, that could be us, Justice. That could be us, Courage. All right. So moving forward to Model B, let's talk Foxtron. Now, typically it's Foxconn, but it looks like they're changing the name because they don't want to have con in their name. I don't know. But Justice, you want to fill us in on what the Model B is, why we're excited about it, and I'm excited about it. I'll give you my take after you fill us in with what's going on over there.
Well, they are calling themselves Foxtron in this vehicle because it's part of a joint venture with Yulon Motors, which is Taiwan's largest automaker, known for building the Nissans. So, because it's that, they're wanting to do this. So, the Model B is their first foyer. They have lots of vehicles planned. The Model B, C, and E, which we know for a fact you cannot use in the United States. Ask Elon Musk. You cannot use the Model E. So I'm not sure if the names are going to stick or not. They're planning on getting these out in China in 2023. We'll see if that happens. And then they want to start production 2024 at the new Lordstown plant that they bought in Ohio. So, I mean, that's exciting there. Let's see. I think it's 400-mile range is what they're looking at on these too.
Yeah, for a 2024 model, I wouldn't be surprised. But like you said, production is supposed to start very soon in China.
Yeah.
The Lordstown plant is going to be used mostly by Foxconn now to build the Model B. But Lordstown Motors is still producing small volume production for the Lordstown Endurance electric truck, which is a truck we don't talk about a lot on here because it has been revealed that it is just going to be for fleet customers. It has about 200 miles of range, starts at $63,000. For 200 miles of range, 63 grand, only for fleet customers. Not a lot of reasons for us to talk about it on our show, but hey, it looks like Lordstown, Ohio, this would be good for the job production. All right, get some more jobs going in the old Rust Belt. I'm not too far from there myself, but I'm excited about the Model B. It's kind of like the iPhone of cars, considering that Foxconn makes iPhones. I mean, it's a stretch, but hey, it worked for the title.
It looks nice so far. They have some interesting little gimmicks on it. The blinkers tell you if there's a pedestrian ahead. Things like that. If you scroll down, I think we're on the same picture. Yeah, scroll down a little bit more. Yeah, they're right there.
That's
So they'll
interesting.
tell you if there's a pedestrian. 435 to 466 mile range. So great range on it if that's what they actually get out of it.
I bet that would be on the more generous, is it WLTP cycle?
Yeah.
Yeah, the one used by a lot more international certification agencies. But I mean, 435 to 466, that is great. And I bet when it comes to the EPA, it would still be around above 350. I mean, that would
Yeah,
be
I
amazing.
think it would be as well. So, I mean, it's going to be officially revealed in 8 days from now. So we have some pictures of it. The videos, there's a great fun little video on it there, from they posted on Twitter. But I'm anxious to see the full video. It looks a lot like a. Oh man, I had the vehicle earlier. It's a little hatchback, so it looks like the Toyota. Scroll up to the top. Tell
The
me
hatch.
what you think it looks like. I cannot remember the name of the Toyota.
I don't know, but a lot of people keep saying it's a Model Y competitor, and I do not get Model Y comparison vibes at all from this. That's what a lot of
No,
the media
not
have
at
been
all.
saying, though. This doesn't look like I'd be cross shopping it versus the Model Y.
No, that's not a no. The Corolla hatchback, I guess, is what I'm thinking.
Corolla
Yeah, yeah,
hatchback.
Corolla
Yeah,
hatchback. Yeah, yeah, that's what it is. Um, I don't know why I couldn't remember the name Corolla, but
that's all
okay.
right.
That yeah, definitely more Corolla than Model Y. I mean, I guess I would have to stand next to it or see someone standing next to it to compare the size, but it doesn't look Model Y ish to me.
Yeah, and we don't have any info on pricing yet, but I would imagine it would be undercutting the Model Y's price by quite a bit. Probably going to fall in line with where the starting range is for the Hyundai Ioniq 5 and Kia EV6. That's my bet. But we forgot to mention that Foxconn is also planning to build the Fisker Pear electric sedan at the Lordstown, Ohio facility, probably starting that in 2024, maybe even 2025. Definitely not a next year type of thing, but yeah, this whole Foxconn plant in Ohio, I want to like get a tour of it next year. That sounds like a fascinating place to be, where you're going to have 2 and eventually 3 electric vehicles built in one facility. And it used to be a GM facility. It's where they used to build the Chevy Cruze. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean I don't know how they're gonna. I'm very curious to know how they do that. If they're gonna have 3 little plants inside, or if you're gonna, this week we're gonna build this car, next week we're gonna build that car. I want to know what their plan is there.
Yeah, I agree. Um, yeah, so I just looked up some more info on the Model B, and I'm going to share with you guys just to point out the comparisons that a lot of people seem to be making, because I want to know what you think. Is this a fair comparison to make? I mean, most of them are drawing comparisons to the Model Y, but once this vehicle is released, I don't think that's going to be making much sense. I think we're going to be comparing it to some more budget friendly options, if there's ever such a thing in EV world. But
Yeah.
it'd be great if it started around 40 grand, but lots of unknowns, lots of ifs, as John said in the chat. Uh, we're still quite a ways from this making its US debut, but I'm guessing we'll learn a lot more about it once it starts production in China in just a few months. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, hopefully we'll learn a lot more about it in 8 days when they do the official unveiling, and we can see more into it.
Yes, which reminds me, Wednesday of this week, Polestar is unveiling the official details and official design of the Polestar 3. So my project today, if you guys are a fan of the YAA blog, my project today is going to be getting a resource online with everything that we know already about the Polestar 3. And then Wednesday, when everything is announced, I will immediately hurry up and make that the go-to resource for the Polestar 3, because I'm pretty excited about this. Um, my only complaint is affordability, because I don't think the Polestar 3 is going to be affordable at all. I mean, it's not really a surprise, but I mean, I would love to have another crossover electric vehicle with, 250, 300 miles of range for under 60 grand, but I don't think that's what's going to happen here with the Polestar 3.
No,
Let's see.
and where is the Pulsar 3 being made?
Good question. Not in the Well, actually,
Yeah.
I think it is.
Is
I
it?
believe, yeah. Oh, yeah. Let me look that up real quick for everyone.
Because if it could qualify for some of the rebates, that would make it a lot more attractive.
hmm Yeah, it's going to be built in Charleston, South Carolina.
Okay.
That's exciting. It's yeah, so it's going to be the first fully electric vehicle from Volvo Group that is going to be built in the United States. Yep. Even Polestar
Nice.
itself had a press release out just a few months ago sharing the fact that it's going to be built in the United States, so that's really exciting. Wow.
Well, I was reading an article I think this morning that they've invested $11 billion in electric vehicle battery investments since the Inflation Reduction Act was signed in August. So
Yeah.
$11 billion in commitments since August.
1.5 months. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, that's an awful lot of money in commitment. So it seems that the purpose of the Inflation Reduction Act seems to be working. We'll see how much bears fruit, but right now the commitments are really high, which is fantastic.
Yep. Yep, it is. So I'm looking forward to this on Wednesday. We'll have more details to share with you guys on Friday of this week. Maybe we'll make that a Polestar 3 show. I don't know. But Justice, any other news catch your eye over the weekend?
Well, Renault, the French automaker, is planning on doing a network of EV chargers up and down Western Europe. So they're going to be doing it in France, Belgium, Italy, and Spain, and they've committed to 200 EV charging stations by mid 2024. So again, this isn't government subsidies. This is an automaker going out like Tesla did and putting these in. And I think that's great. I think everyone needs to do that. Oh, Ford had originally announced they were doing that, and then it sort of dropped off. They were doing their very Tesla-looking charging network that they were going to build out, and I haven't seen it since. But yes, we need some public investment, but we need a lot of private investment too. I think all these companies that are making EVs need to get out there and get their networks going.
Yeah, I agree.
Non-proprietary networks.
And we heard
Tesla.
about 2 months ago that GM is partnering with EVgo to install charging networks at Pilot and Flying J truck stops around the United States, which, as someone who's like, this is weird, Justice. This is weird, you guys. But I like looking at the shirt selection at truck stops. I have purchased trucking shirts just because I think they're cool. You got a big rig on it, like flames shooting out the smokestacks. I love truck stops, especially their merchandise. So I would be happy to pull up at a Flying J with my Ioniq 5, pull into one of GM's EVgo stations, and check out their merchandise. Maybe
I
it's in my future.
can't say I've ever been to a truck stop, so maybe I need to go and look at the merchandise.
It's a cultural experience that you're missing out on, Justice.
Yeah, I mean, I've just never had reason to stop at a truck stop, so I feel like I'm missing out. I got to go on a tour and find out.
Maybe middle schools should take mandatory field trips to truck stops. Just kidding, you guys. But looking forward to that, though. I think there is going to be a lot to come as automakers are kind of forced to get deeper into the charging network game, because we've seen that as of 2022, Electrify America can't hold its own. Yeah, I complain about that all the time. Not going to go into it, but I think we'll see more and more automakers try to solve the problem themselves. But here's an EV that I was looking at this weekend, and a plug-in hybrid that I'm excited about. Speaking of affordability, it may not have the fastest charging in the world, but yeah, it's the redesigned Kia Niro. What are your thoughts on the Kia Niro?
I love it. We didn't even talk about this ahead of time. I was just looking at it this morning that they're using the same platform for all of them, so they look the same, which I'm a fan of. I think the different looks turn a lot of EV buyers off. I'm not one of them, but so I think this is fantastic. You can just choose your poison, as it be. Your hybrid, plug-in hybrid, EV, and I like the Niro already. So I think this is a great idea.
Yes, and the plug-in hybrid, I think, is a great option for those who aren't cool with the Niro's slow charging capabilities when it comes to the fully electric Niro. Because even for the 2023 model, you're still looking at a peak charging capability of 75 kilowatts, which means you're going to be sitting there. If you guys are thinking about buying a fully electric 2023 Kia Niro, you're going to have to sit there for about 50 minutes to maybe even an hour to gain about 200 miles of range. Keep in mind that the much, much fancier Kia EV6, which does cost about, I don't know, like $7,000-8,000 more, without markups. It adds about 200 miles of range in just 20 minutes. So you're looking at 20 minutes versus 50 minutes. That's a vast difference. If you travel a lot, I would not recommend the fully electric EV when it comes to the Niro, but the plug-in hybrid, that's a great value. It starts at 35 grand for the plug-in hybrid, and that gets you 33 miles of all electric range. The average American drives about 35 miles a day. Some estimates put it closer to 40 miles per day. So most people are going to be able to do most of their driving in fully electric miles, and that saves a lot on fuel. We can't really say that maintenance is going to be any cheaper with the plug-in hybrid because you still have all the other components of a traditional powertrain. So don't expect maintenance savings in the long run with a plug-in hybrid like you might get with an EV, but I'm still a fan of this. Even the traditional hybrid 2023 Niro gets about 50 miles per gallon for a little crossover shaped vehicle that's not very aerodynamic. That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's got a great great mileage no matter which one you're choosing. Plug-in hybrid, I think I like the plug-in hybrids. It teaches people to plug your vehicle in and get used to that habit of it without having to rely on it if you forget once in a while.
Yeah.
So I think that's fantastic.
I really wish it charged quicker though for the full
Yeah.
EV because Learning Fast in the chat was wondering how big is the battery pack. It's 65 kilowatt hours. Then the Niro, historically, it's been out since 2019. The Niro EV has always been one of the most efficient, like non-Tesla EVs out there. It's very efficient. So if you're
Yep.
thinking about going electric for the environment, that's great news. It's a very efficient EV. If only it charged quicker, more people would be interested in the Niro EV. But yeah, expect slow charge times, but it does cost a whole lot less than some of the competitors. I'm working on another resource that I'll share on the YAA blog of the most negotiable electric vehicles in 2023. There are not going to be a lot on the list. It's hard to find a negotiable EV at this point in time because of supply chain shortages, but the Niro EV is going to be on that list because it's always competing with its sibling, the EV6. I don't expect any opportunity to negotiate anything below MSRP on the EV6 for quite a long time. It is in high demand, very short supply. But with the Niro EV, you might be able to negotiate on that one because, it's not an updated powertrain. It does have fully updated looks, but yeah, I think it might be negotiable in 2023. We'll see.
I think there's a good chance of that. Hyundais and Kias are becoming negotiable again a little bit.
Yeah.
Not on the fully electric, as you said, not the EV6 isn't the Ioniq 5. They're not going to be too negotiable, but others are. So I think if any of the EVs are, it'll be the Niro.
Yeah, that is true. And let's see, we had Learning Fast once again in the chat reminding us that smaller battery packs charge faster. That's technically true, but even Kia says that the 2023 Niro EV is expected to go from 10 to 80% in 45 minutes. So if you do the math, that's like 180 miles of range added in 45 minutes. For families, got a toddler in the back seat, you don't want to be sitting there for 45 minutes. But if you primarily need a vehicle for around town, a commuter vehicle, for an electric vehicle for around 40 grand, this might be a good choice moving into next year. And it looks a whole lot cooler, in my opinion, than the outgoing 2022 Niro.
Yeah, it does. It looks much better than the current Niros.
Yeah. And a good question from Leon. I am not sure. We'd have to dig into that. I'm not sure what the crash test ratings are. I know that they're excellent for the EV6 and Ioniq 5, but not sure about the Niro. It's a smaller
Yeah, I don't
vehicle
know the
overall.
Niro yet.
Yep. But that's all I've got today, Justice. Make it a short show today, but
Yeah.
thank you so much for being here. And yeah, I'd say the big news that I'm looking forward to this week is hopefully getting some more numbers on EV market share from Q3 2022, because we're still missing numbers from a few automakers. I'm hoping somebody will crunch Tesla's new registration numbers ASAP so we can find out just how many Teslas were sold in the United States. They don't break it down by geography, but it's looking like another record quarter for EV sales in the United States. And I will be looking out for the Polestar 3 on Wednesday. Looking forward to sharing all of that info with you guys. Justice, thank you. Will you be here
Thank you
Wednesday?
for having me. I will be here.
Awesome. Well, have a great day, everyone. We'll be back in a few days.
Bye, everybody.